Hello, my bookish besties, and welcome back to another video. I'm so happy you're here. Today we're going to be doing TBR Jar chooses my TBR for the month of July, and I am excited. Last month I did my first TBR Jar video, and it picked some really hard ones. So it's pretty much as the best way I can describe it. I was challenged last month to read the largest book on my TBR, and that book was in fact 1,001 pages. It's right up here, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and it wasn't forgiving. In my previous video, you would have seen my June wrap up to see how many books I actually made it through last month. I had started Magnolia Parks last month, so I'm just carrying that over along with The Way of Kings. But I did decide that The Way of Kings is not going to be on a TBR anymore. It's just going to be a book that I am reading because it is so large, and this isn't my full-time job. This isn't what I do for a living yet. I just don't have the time to devote what I would like to reading as much because I am a photographer, I am a dance teacher, I am a dancer, so I have rehearsals, I have kids to teach, I have photos to edit, sessions to shoot. I still have a job outside of just this. Reading a 1,001 page book in a month is just a little too much for me. Probably, honestly, realistically, for anyone to do, unless you are just absolutely insane and can read books like that. I'm a fast reader, but June was also the worst month for me to possibly pick that prompt because we were traveling and we weren't home for, I think, 3 of the 4 weekends in the month of June. This past weekend was our first weekend home in June, and now it's July. So it was a bad month to be doing that. Enough of me blabbing. Let's get started with picking our prompts. So I'm gonna hope and pray that the TBR jar doesn't do me as dirty as it did last month. I once again am going to use my Harry Potter wand to stir it up. Honestly, I just made this TBR jar last month and I've already forgotten kind of what I should be scared of in here. So first prompt: a book that starts with the first letter of your name. Okay, my name is Hannah, legally, but I prefer to go by Jules, which is my middle name. So we'll see what I have, if anything, that starts with an H. Y'all, I literally don't have a book that starts with H. I feel like that's a pretty common consonant to start a book title off with. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. I'm gonna look through them again. I literally don't have a book that starts with H or J. That's crazy. I guess I'm gonna have to pick another TBR prompt. TBR prompt 1, part 2. Okay, fantasy. So this is basically a free pick of a fantasy book that I would like to read this month. And I have a lot of fantasy on my shelf. Let's see, I'm reading The Way of Kings and for sure Magnolia Parks this month. I'm also going to be reading Project Hail Mary for book club on Fable, and I'm going to be reading The Bullet Swallower which is a crime novel for book club for my in-person book club. Let me be nice to myself. I could read The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, which we know I really want to read. I could read Onyx Storm, but I'm being honest, I don't want to. I'm not interested in reading this. I actually might not even finish the series. I've been thinking about that a lot. I've just heard so many negative things about this, and the writing is just awful. And I don't know. I could start the Swordcatcher series. I could put The Chain of Gold back on my TBR and hopefully get to it this month. I am really disappointed that I didn't get to it this month. So I honestly might do that and then just carry it over. I know it's kind of like, really, for probably y'all, but I really want to get to it. I really do. I could do The Will of the Many by James Islington, which honestly I'm not going to do because I still have The Way of Kings up there. I don't want to read those at the same time, just because that just feels like a lot. Fair on the Sun I could read. Let's see, what else? Any more fantasy? The Night Circus, I think, is fantasy or sci-fi. And then obviously down here, I don't think you can see it, is the Aragon series. I could start that, but I don't think I'm going to. This is a freaking heavy book. 385 pages of beautiful Rachel Gillig's writing. I'm really leaning towards starting that one, or then we put Chain of Gold back on here. Oh god. Back to our regular scheduled program. I could do Chain of Gold again. 581 pages, but it's a YA. I'm such a mood reader. Doing these monthly TBR picks has been really hard. You know what? I'm gonna get to you eventually, but I can't do it because I quite literally basically put fantasy in here as a free pick because this book had just come out and I was like, there's actually multiple prompts in here that are specifically for this book. And even though fantasy is a broad one, it's just a genre, so it's any fantasy book, I put it in here because I really wanted to read this. And I'm going to treat myself. And I'm going to read The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig because she's one of my favorite authors. And I've been having to avoid any reviews, any Instagram reels, YouTube shorts, YouTube videos with this book in it because I'm scared that someone's going to spoil it for me. And I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know anything. I don't even really know what it's about. I'm just going into it blind because I have the most fun when I go into books. I'm scared it's going to fall again. Second time's a charm, yeah? Hopefully she's done being dramatic. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. First book on our TBR. Next prompt. Continuing a series. Well, crap. I could do Fearless, or I could do Onyx Storm. But that's already fantasy, more fantasy, and I don't think I'm in the middle of any romance series. Oh, dang it. Everything else is a standalone. Okay, I obviously have to pick, I think it's literally just these two that I'm in the middle of for a series with a book that's already out. There's other series I'm in the middle of, but the book's not out, so obviously I can't read that. Wow, this TBR jar is relentless. It has it out for me. Okay, well, I'm going to read Fearless by Lauren Roberts this month. I honestly don't know why I haven't read this yet, aside from just busyness and wanting to read this at a specific time, but I think the time is now because I've kind of been craving stepping back into this world a little bit. It is the third and final main trilogy book. She has another novella coming out, I believe, later this year, but this is like a part of the main trilogy. So this will be the last one, and it'll be completing a series, which is exciting. So Fearless by Lauren Roberts is our second pick of the month. Third, please be something kind. Indie author. Ooh, okay, I love this prompt. Y'all, I'm actually gonna have to stop recording and look up on my phone indie authors because I know of a couple on here, but they're more fantasy novels, and I fear that I am not going to want to read nothing but fantasy for the month of July because it's summer. I want a romance. I want romance. Y'all, I know what book I can choose. It's not a romance, but it is an indie author and it's a local author here in Montana. So with that, I'm going to choose Finding Poppies by Vicki B. Williamson. This is a local author. I've talked about her book before. I met her. I got a signed copy, and she lives here in Montana. And so I'm going to read Finding Poppies. This is a debut thriller novel by her, and it's a good, short, 185 pages. I'm going to read this though, because it is short, local indie author, and will be our third pick for the month of July. Even though it's not a romance novel and we are very fantasy heavy for the month of July, I'm excited about that. I've actually been wanting to read a thriller, crime, horror book the past couple weeks. So I'm excited that I could find a prompt that, or find a book that works for that prompt. That's the third prompt. Let's choose another one. Our fourth prompt for the month of July, shortest book on TBR. Well, I think I just picked the shortest book on my TBR. Ooh, actually, Got some children's novels, or You're Smarter Than You Think is 180 pages for You're Smarter Than You Think, which is a nonfiction, a kid's guide to multiple intelligences. I've talked about this book on my TBR tour video. It basically just goes over all the different ways people learn, different intelligences, and how you can discover the way that you learn and think differently. So 180 pages, which is just 5 pages short of Finding Poppies, which is kind of funny that I just picked that after having just picked that. Let's see, this is a kid's novel, The Dragon Rider Who Saved the World, The Golden Egg by Ted Decker and Rachel Decker. This is 182 pages, longer than You're Smarter Than You Think, so that doesn't necessarily work. Path Between Us, 184. I have a lot of under 200 page books that I'm pulling. Yeah, I think honestly we're gonna have to go with a nonfiction. Yeah, we're gonna have to go with You're Smarter Than You Think by Thomas Armstrong. I think this will be interesting, and honestly this will be a very easy book to read in the month of July, which I'm okay with. So an interesting pick. Wasn't exactly expecting to pick a prompt like that for this type of a book, but hey, it's fine. I need to get some book, what are those called? Book weights, book holders, whatever they're called. Interesting TBR for next month. 5th prompt, husband chooses next read. Only problem is my husband is at Bible study right now, so I cannot FaceTime him and ask him. Darn. I would love to do this prompt, but he's literally at Bible study for like the next hour, hour and a half. It just started. Darn it. I love that prompt. Hopefully sometime soon we can do that one again. Sports. That's all it says. Sports. And I know exactly what book I'm going to be picking for this. It's going to be The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. I am so excited to finally get to read this. This is a romance novel, and this is what my soul needed. I was really hoping I'd actually get to pick this book this month. I literally walked in here, I saw it on my shelf, and I was like, I really hope I pick a prompt where I can choose the rule book, because I have been dying to read this. He's a football player, she's his sports agent. They're exes, so it's like a second chance romance. And I'm so happy I have a romance on the shelf. Like I said, I love reading fantasy, but when you're also reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, kind of a lot. This will be so nice. And it's summer. The 5th book on our TBR for next month. So we have 5 books that we picked for our July TBR, and I think I'm going to leave it there because I'm in the middle of Magnolia Parks and The Way of Kings. Having these 5 books, 2 of them being on the shorter side, I want to go a little bit easier on myself since 3 of the books on my TBR are fantasy, which means they're bigger and more brain power. And I also am going to be reading for my Fable book club pick, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and I am so pumped for this book. I've had this on my shelf for a really long time. I'm excited to get to this one. So this will also be on my TBR to read. Don't know if I'll finish it this month, but it is for my Fable book club. And then for my in-person book club that will be meeting this month, we have The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. This is a crime novel. It starts in 1895, tells you kind of a backstory of what happens, crime that happens, and then how it resurfaces back generations later to someone who isn't even involved or doesn't even know that their family was involved in that in 1964. So like a big jump of time. I know that part of this has to do with Texas as well, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. This sounds really good. I'm really excited to read this. This is for my in-person book club with some local friends of mine, and is also going to be on the TBR for this month. So we have a very full TBR. I'm being very ambitious. I feel that whenever I do these videos, I'm like, throw another one on there, because I love pulling, even though you do me dirty, I love pulling these TBR prompts out and being like, which book is going to fit this prompt better? And I love doing that. But I then get a little carried away, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 books on my TBR. Even, well, 8, not including The Way of Kings, because we're just reading that until we're done with it. Got got a lot of things going on. So to wrap this up, let's go through the books that we have on my July TBR. So starting off, I'm going to be reading Magnolia Parks, continuing this. I started this in June, didn't finish it in time for my June wrap up, but we'll be finishing it for sure in the month of June. The first TBR jar prompt picked today was fantasy, and I went with The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I'm so excited to read this book. Like, so excited. The second prompt pulled out of the jar was continuing a series, and I went with Fearless by Lauren Roberts, which is the third and final main book in her trilogy, Powerless. And I'm so excited to step back into this world. The third prompt picked was Indie Author, and I went with Finding Poppies by Vicki B. Williamson. It is a crime novel, and she lives here in Montana as well. The next prompt was Shortest Book on the TBR, which ended up being You're Smarter Than You Think, which is a nonfiction learning about different intelligences and how we individually learn, by Thomas Armstrong, who has a PhD. Should be interesting. I'm excited to learn about the different intelligences of the world. Please do not fall. Don't want that to happen for a third time. And the fifth prompt picked out of the TBR jar was sports. That's it. Just sports. And I went with The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Romance novel, football player, sports agent of said football player, their exes. So second chance romance. This looks like a beach, palm tree, summer. It's July. I'm ready. Thank God. So that was all picked by my TBR jar. And then I also have Project Hail Mary by Andy Ware, and then The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James, which are both book club picks. So with that, here is our July TBR. I'm pretty excited for how July looks reading-wise. I'm hoping that I can get through the majority of these books. We have a good array of things, heavy on the fantasy side, but I mean, that makes sense because I am a fantasy lover and that is the majority of my bookshelf. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't know what to comment, comment down below what book you're most excited for me to read this month, or you're excited to read this month off of your TBR, or your hopefuls if you don't do a TBR. I really appreciate you being here and sticking around and watching my video. It means a lot to me as a small bookish creator. Genuinely. Thank you so much for being here. I also would love to hear anything that you might have, or I would love to receive any ideas you would like to see from me for future videos. It can be day in the life type of stuff, more what specific book content you'd like to see more of or less of. I would really love it if I had your input. It's super helpful for me to know what you enjoy watching, especially since I'm a small bookish creator right now. I'm learning here and I'm trying to learn how to navigate this new area. And so I would love any help that you are willing to give. With that said, thank you again so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!